How's it going, everyone? This is Mike, back for another episode of Movies from A to Z. And today, the letter I stands for The Incident, which is a 1967 release from 20th Century Fox, directed by a guy named Larry Pierce. This is one of my favorite films of all time. I saw this back when it first came out. I was 16 years old. Made a huge impression on me. And even though I've seen it many, many times over the years, I am still deeply affected every time I watch it, including last night when I watched it again, getting ready for this video. So let me talk about it a little bit and give it the highest recommendation. This is a psychological thriller with a very deceptively simple plot, really. It's about a couple of overgrown juvenile delinquents in New York City, played by Tony Musante, playing a character named Joe Ferrone, and Martin Sheen playing Artie Connors, the couple of guys who are out late at night playing pool, drinking hard liquor, getting a little more crazy and wild as the night goes on, and they get on a subway car filled with people, a whole bunch of different people from different walks of life in New York City. And they proceed to harass and terrorize every single person on the car. And it ends in, has a very bleak ending. It ends in bone-crushing violence, which would make Dirty Harry's day, I think. So, yeah, even though I've seen the violent parts again and again, they are still very effective to me. So, without giving too much away, and I'm telling you what happens, because as I said, it's a very simple plot structure. But what the people are about and what happens between the people and the two hoods, the two criminals, that is the drama of the film. So like I said, these two guys get on the subway car that is already filled up with people. So we meet each one of these people before they get on the car. As they're heading toward the subway, we learn a little bit something about them and about their lives, and this includes 4 married couples. The first couple we meet, played by Ed McMahon, who was also making his acting debut, and Diana Vandervlis, as a couple with their 4-year-old daughter. He's carrying her in his arms, and they've been out to a very late dinner at the wife's mother's house, and they're having this marital conflict about money and about deciding whether or not to have another child, because he's worried about the fact that he's working all the time and working too hard, and she spends too much money. So that's their conflict, and they get on the train and they're still talking about this stuff. The next married couple is played by Thelma Ritter and Jack Gilford, an older couple who have just come back from a dinner at their son's house, where the father was asking the son for some money to help him fix a dental problem because he's having a lot of pain and trouble eating. And the son has turned him down, so the father is very upset, and he's hurt, and he's complaining about the younger generation being selfish and not caring about their parents. And Thelma Ritter's character is trying to calm her husband down and just, stop complaining, just accept it, and don't get your blood pressure up because you'll hurt yourself. So they get on the subway and they're already upset. The next couple we meet, played by Jan Sterling and Mike Killen. Mike Killen is a great character actor. He did a lot of television back in the 60s. Okay, so this is a couple that has just come from a party given by old friends, and the woman is complaining to her husband because he's not making enough money. He's a school teacher, and she's complaining because every other woman at that party have better clothes, they all drive better cars, they all have children, we don't have any, you're not a man. And the husband is a milquetoast who obviously lets his wife run all over him, and he's telling her that if you could just accept me for who I am, then I might be a happy man and you just might be a happy woman. But his wife is having none of it. So they get on the subway. They're still very upset with each other. Then we meet Brock Peters and Ruby Dee, a black couple who have just come from a civil rights meeting. The woman, Ruby Dee, is a social worker, and she is trying to work alongside sympathetic white people to make things change. And Brock Peters is having none of it because he is a very angry, militant guy who says this is not the way to do it. We're in a war and you're going to have to fight. And he said the next white man that says the wrong thing to me is going to get his head bashed in. So they have this conflict going on. And we meet another couple, a teenage couple, probably about 19, maybe 20 years old, who are not married. This is Donna Mills, playing her first feature film role, and an actor named Victor Arnold. And they are, well, they're making out. This guy is trying to hustle this girl into bed, and she's attracted to the guy. She can't decide if she wants to do this or not. She's very torn, and she's afraid of losing him. She's curious about having sex with him, but she's just not quite sure what to do. And he finally just says, okay, I've had enough of you, and I'm not going to see you anymore. So she goes up to the guy and said, I'll do anything you want. And they get on the car, and they're making out like crazy while he's going to take her home. And God only knows what will happen after that. So we meet another couple. There's a couple of male friends played by Beau Bridges and an actor named Robert Bannard, whom I couldn't find too much about. Of course, everybody knows who Beau Bridges is. And they play a couple of military men who have been visiting this guy. He's an Italian-American. They were visiting his parents for dinner. So that's where they're coming from. And they're heading for Times Square to put Beau Bridges' character, a guy named Felix, who's from Oklahoma, a country boy in the big city, looking around at everything like, wow, what's all this? And it's totally out of place, but a real nice, good-hearted guy. So they're getting ready to put him on a bus to go back to Oklahoma. Anyway, so they've got all this going on. And there are a couple of other people that get on, a couple of men. One is Gary Merrill, who is an older man who we find out from a phone call that he makes before he gets on the car that he's an alcoholic who's been sober for 8 months. He's trying to get a job. He's supposed to have a job interview the next day. He's determined to go home and get to bed early because he wants to reconcile with his wife and family. And when he's ending this phone call with another male friend of his, he said, John, if you were there, I would kiss you. Now, somebody overhears him say that. Another character named Robert Fields, who is a gay man who is looking for company. He seems to be very lonely, very lost, and he approaches Gary Merrill. They had actually they had seen each other in a bar, or they didn't really say much to each other, but this guy approaches Gary Merrill, and Gary Merrill picks up very quickly on what this guy wants, and he says, get the hell away from me. So they end up getting on the same car and trying to stay away from each other. Well, into this group of people with all of their conflicts, and of course doing the normal public transportation thing of not looking at the people in front of you, not looking at the people next to you, just keeping your head down, minding your own business, not wanting to get involved. Here come Joe Ferrone and Artie Connors, drunk out of their minds and looking for trouble. So they proceed to harass each one of these people, and it gets very violent and very crazy. So that's the story, and I don't know if that sounds interesting to you or not, but you have to realize it's done by a group of very talented actors, including some of the people who are very young and just starting out. And every one of these people represents a different strata of American society, and each one of them, because of their confrontation with these two men, each one of them learns a little something about themselves and about the people around them. These people are forced, maybe for the first time in their lives, to put their heads up and look at the people around them. Wake up, look at what's happening. For example, the gay man is one of the first to be harassed and terrorized by these guys. And I mean, this was back in the day before the gay liberation movement, and gay men and lesbians were just, nothing at all. They were looked down upon by everybody, and nobody cared if somebody was harassing a gay guy. In fact, when this whole thing starts, some of the people are just saying, they caught a queer, who cares? And they're kind of grinning at him and just not caring because he's nothing, right? But as the harassment and the terrorizing gets worse and more cruel, these people are looking probably for the first time at what a gay person has to go through in that society. And it's the same with the black couple who are harassed terribly by these two guys. For the first time, all the other white people are beginning to understand what black people are going through in this society. And then they have the unmarried couple, Donna Mills and her boyfriend, who's trying to hustle her into bed, and she's trying to decide if she wants to go on with it. When Joe Ferrone starts harassing these two people and asking this guy, so what is she like in bed and all this sort of thing, you can see all these conflicting feelings on Donna Mills' face. She does this scene, very long scene, in complete silence, looking at her boyfriend to stand up for her. Stand up for her as a person, stand up for her as a woman. She's got all these conflicting feelings about, symbolizing what women were going through back in the 60s, trying to decide if they wanted to take part in the new sexual revolution or to keep up with those sexual mores about nice girls don't do this, all sorts of things. And it plays out beautifully in the face of Donna Mills, a very good and very expressive actress. So I think people would like this if they would see it. Now, you can see this movie on YouTube. The whole movie is playing. Just search out The Incident 1967 and you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. It's never had a commercial DVD release. I have two copies of this, both of which are DVD-Rs. This one came from Brian's Trash Palace. This one I can't remember, on one of the iOffer groups, I think, or realmovies.com or something like that. And this is recorded off of American Movie Classics. Completely watchable, but you have the little logo in the corner. I would love it if somebody would take this movie seriously, maybe the Criterion Collection, and put out a really good release. Now, Larry Pierce, the director, is not a name that I'm terribly familiar with, but he did a lot of films like A Separate Peace, 2 Minute Warning, The Other Side of the Mountain, Parts 1 and 2, and even the Big TNT Show. So he's got a very diverse list of credits there. Screenplay was by a guy named Nicholas Baer. Now, he based it on his teleplay. This was actually begun as a television story in 1963 called Ride with Terror. And Tony Musante was the only cast member from that show who played the same role in the film. This was also Martin Sheen's film debut. He had done a lot of early television and a lot of theater, and he was actually my favorite actor back in the day. He was on all kinds of terrific early TV shows like The Defenders and Route 66. He was always playing these crazy criminal types, drug addicts, and always have this wild look in his eyes. And I'll tell you, most people in this day and age know Martin Sheen from, what was it, The West Wing, which I've never seen, but I understand that he did a really good job as an actor in that show. But when he was younger, I mean, if you think that Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez were edgy and cool, you should have seen their dad when he was younger. This is a very good example of what he did back then. And I think that's all I want to say without going on too long. Let me see. Yes. Okay, just once again, highly recommend The Incident. Let me know if you've seen it or you have any questions about it. And as I said, you can find it on YouTube if you're curious. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. Take care.